Tiny. But they do look like a willow leaf.
Sure do.
So Jim, I think we have some Mulefat here.
Mulefat, that's a weird name.
It is a weird name, but wait, look, the leaves look like willow, or is it a willow?
Well, how can we tell?
Well, I don't know. So, well, first of all, I tell a Mulefat because of all this brown, like down in here. Willows don't do that.
So willow, basically dead leaves would just fall away?
Yeah.
Not be retained on the stem like this?
Yes, that's what I think.
And
This is from the Baccharis family, right?
It's in the
not family. genus.
Asteraceae. It's in the sunflower family.
Sunflower family.
And it's one of our several
Here, let me show you where the you see the sunflower.
Oh yeah, there.
Get up there.
Oh, pull it down, Sally. You got it.
Oh, you're gonna make it easy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, geez. You're all up.
I'm going to pull a leaf.
So Mulefat is a dioecious, is that right, Jim? Meaning one plant for male and one plant for female?
Dioecious, two houses. So yes, a house or a plant for the male and a house or a plant for the female.
So I call this one female because she's fluffy.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Well, one thing we train our canyoneers and the public is white bride, so a female, yellow fellow,
I like it.
and I don't see any boys here, so we might not be able to prove that.
Yeah, that's when they're in flower. You can. It's kind of subtle, but you can see it.
You can see it.
Or I like the females are fluffy. The females
Females are
Guys,
soft and fluffy and pretty,
and the males are like stars.
spiky and rough.
Like stars. That's what I like. But so this is not a willow because it's in the wrong family, first of all, but how can we tell? Besides the
Well, the leaf,
flower.
the
flower.
leaf does look very willow.
It does look like a willow.
Long and skinny, but it's got
If you
a
can
vein
see-
on either side of the leaf.
There you go.
So
This
three
one.
veins on the
Plus
back
one in the
side.
middle. It's on the front side. You can see it on both sides.
Can you see it on both sides?
Yeah, it depends
Yeah,
on the
there's a
lighting.
good one right there.
Oh,
Vein on this side, that side, and down the middle.
I'll take your word
Can you
for
see
it. I
it?
don't have my glasses.
Yeah.
There.
And another thing about it, it's a bush with a lot of willow. Maybe all of them are trees.
Absolutely.
See all the branches coming out of the ground
Yeah,
and coming just like straight up and not like a branch tree.
correct.
So, Sally, you called this Mulefat.
I did.
Do you have a reason why we would call it such a funny name?
Yet, it is a funny story, yes. But up in the gold rush era, up in the mountains, Northern California, the miners used to camp and hunt for gold near this plant. And they would tie their mules up to it. So they would be hunting for gold and they would get fat on the gold, but the mules got fat on Mulefat. And then they would go down the trail going, that's
So what environment do we find Mulefat in?
Well, I believe we find Mulefat always in riparian again. Riparian area, it has to have water close by.
Just like willow.
Well, just like willow, so that's why it's a little tricky to tell the difference. But Mulefat's a real interesting plant on its own, and very important on its own. And I believe the natives also used it for arrows.
Yeah, it says long.
See a long, straight.
stems.
So they would take those. They used many different plants for arrow shafts, but this would be one of them, is Mulefat. By the way, I tried to make an arrow once. I took a class from the Kumeyaay. Man, is it hard to make an arrow.
They are such.
Make it straight or what? What's the hard part?
Well, so first of all, you have to find the plant. So you go out in the wild and you have to, look at a Mulefat. Okay, so I can take that stick right there. It's got a little bend to it. I'm gonna take it, and then you have to make a fire. Oh, and first you have to find soapstone, because in soapstone, then you have to carve out a straight path down the middle of this soapstone, which I was given, by the way, by Stan Rodriguez, the elder from the Kumeyaay tribe band here in town.
Keep it?
Yes, he let me keep it. It was so exciting.
I used it for a class.
No, I got to, in the class I got to keep the soapstone. I still have it. And so you build a fire and you heat up that soapstone and the branch, and then you run the branch through that groove to straighten it out. And then you have to, of course, either find the flint or the stone that you're going to make the arrowhead out of and chip that away, or you trade for it, because I'm thinking in every band of Native Americans there was some guy that would be really good at making arrowheads, and I'm not, right? So maybe he would make all the arrowheads, right? So I would get one arrowhead, and then you would split this top, and they would, well, let me go back up, make an arrow branch, right? So what they would do, the kumai, they would take a bone, a piece of bone that's honed out really tiny at one end, like a shape of a key, and they'd take it in the end of the stick, and they would grind it out enough, they could put another little twig inside of it. So then they'd find a smaller twig that they would attach the arrowhead to with catgut, well, not catgut.
Probably deer.
Deer sinews, thank you, not catgut, deer sinew. And they would wrap it around, right, and tie on the arrowhead to this little shaft, stick that in this end of the arrowhead, right, arrow shaft. So now you have the other end of the arrow shaft. Then you have to find the bird to get the feathers, and you have to splinter that up.
Without using arrows unless you have a few arrows.
Right, and then so you'd have to use the sinew to wrap the feathers on. Okay, so now you have an arrow that has feathers on one end, and you have this little extra shaft on the other end that's tied into this end, right? So then you shoot the arrow, and this little end sticks into the animal. This part falls away, recyclable. They were brilliant, and they did that for their
It's so hard to make. That's part
spears.
Part of the reason.
Yes, they did it. Yes, exactly. They did it for their spears too. They'd make the big spears, and then they'd make the little end to go into it with the big spear head on it, and they would go after the deer or whatever. Again, the shaft would fall away, and the arrowhead would stay in to the animal, recyclable, and then when they would butcher the animal, they'd get their arrowhead back.
Yeah.
Recycled, brilliant. Because they're so hard to make.
I mean, hunters have a problem with wounding, and that sounds like a perfect. You want it, like if you're using a bow and arrow, you want a head that makes it bleed out fast. Otherwise, you're going to track and track and track until the thing finally dies.
Right.
Energy, yes, yes.